Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lara Savage. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe so that you can get notified whenever I post any video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this amazing reversible milkmaid top. So I'm going to show you guys the pattern drafting and the sewing tutorial in this particular video. Let's just get right in. So for this, you're going to be needing these materials. Now you're doing this on a pattern paper first because we're going to be doing a slash and spread method. So you can't do it first on your fabric because you're not going to get the particular effect that this milkmaid top is going to have. So that said, we're going to fold our paper into two just like I've done right here. And then we're going to mark all our vertical measurements. So from the top, I'm going to be measuring my bust line, which is 10 inches. Then I'm going to measure my waistline, which is 16 inches. Then to get the V-shaped accent at the bottom of the top, I'm going to measure 7 inches after the waistline. So this 7 inches will act as my seam allowance and everything. It will be just there. Once that is done, I'm going to use a line to represent all these lines and then label them. Toxic in my face, no way, you don't want it. So the next thing I'm going to do is measure my under bust line. So I'm going down from my bust line by 4 inches and I'm going to draw a line there representing my under bust. Need your therapy. Once that is done, I'm going to go to my shoulder line. I'm going to measure my neckline, which will be 3 inches wide by 3 inches. Now I'm not really going to use these measurements, but I'm just doing it so that I can be able to work on my bodice well. And then I'm going to measure my shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2. It's 15 inches divided by 2 in my case, which is 7.5. I'm going to mark it right there. And I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then I'm just going to rule a line to represent it. So from the neckline to my shoulder slope. Now guys, I'm now going to go up from my bust line by 1 inch. So just like I'm doing right here, I'm going to go up by 1 inch. And that would serve as my chest line. Now I'm now going to connect the shoulder slope point down to this chest line using a straight line, just like I'm doing right here. Connect it down using a straight line. Then I'm now going to go to this chest line and measure my bust divided by 4, and I'm going to mark it right there. Then I'm now going to go to this line right here and I'm going to mark the center of it. Once I've marked the center, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. So this will serve as my armhole curve. Then I'm going to connect it from my shoulder slope to that 1/2 inch point down to my bust divided by 4 that I measured on the chest line. So just like I've done right here, this is what it's going to look like. Then the next thing I'm going to do is measure my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, and I'm going to mark it on the bust line, the under bust line, and the waistline. So can you guys see? Connect these 3 points and then go to the waistline and mark 0.5 inch on both sides of this straight line. Once that is done, connect it just like you're creating a dart. So you're going to connect it from the bust line down to the waistline and then the other side as well. So you have this inverted V kind of shape. Now guys, the next thing you're going to do, you're going to go to your under bust line and they are going to go up by 1 inch. So from the center front right here, I'm going up by 1 inch on the under bust line, and then I'm going to use a curve to connect it to the point right there. So I'm going to connect it to that dart basically. So can you guys see what I've done? I've connected it to the dart, and then from the nipple to nipple measurement line on the bust line, I'm going to go to the right by my nipple to nipple measurement. So remember the nipple to nipple measurement I used on this side. I'm going to measure it again from that center line to the other side. So just like I've done right here. So once that is measured, I'm now going to connect it using a curve again to the under bust line. So can you guys see what I'm doing right here? I'm going to connect it using a curve down to my under bust. And then I'm just going to extend this line to my armhole line. So just like I've done right here, can you guys see the shape that I have right here? So just follow the steps I'm doing right here. This is what it looks like now. This is what I'll use to connect my new armhole curve. So just create a slight curve connecting it to the bust circumference divided by 4 that you marked. Now for the top, I'm just going to connect it using a curve from this new armhole to the chest line on the center front. So just like I've done right here, can you guys see it? Now the shape is looking weird, I know, but trust me, it's going to turn out really nice. And once that is done, I'm going to measure my bust circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance on the chest line, then on the bust line as well, bust divided by 4 plus 1 inch, and on the waist line, I'm going to measure my waist divided by 4, then I'm going to add that 1 inch dart allowance. I'm going to measure it and add it to my measurement. So waist divided by 4 plus this 1 inch dart allowance plus 1 inch seam allowance. So do you guys get waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance and 1 inch of the dart allowance? Now on the hem, I'm going to mark 4 inches because that's how wide I want my bottom to actually be on one side. So I'm going to mark 4 inches. It's plus my seam allowance, so it's going to reduce even more. So mark it and then connect it from the chest line to the bust line to the waistline, and then using a slant to the hem. So this is what you should have on your pattern, and then I'm just going to cut it out just like that.
Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quit.
Now before I cut out the cup side, I'm just going to take another pattern paper and I'm going to fold my pattern paper on the waistline. So this front pattern, I'm going to fold it on the waistline. Now before I get started, I'm going to mark 1 inch for my zipper allowance if I'm using a zipper. In this case, I used an elastic back so that you can wear it, you don't need to have any worries of doing any zipper or anything. If you want to use a zipper, you're going to add this 1 inch. Even if you're using my method, add that 1 inch. It's going to basically add to the measurement. So add this 1 inch seam allowance right here and then place your pattern on it just like that. Now you're going to mark where your chest line is, then the armhole side. So just like that, use dotted lines to trace them, and then you're going to use your ruler to just rule it correctly. So on the hem, I'm going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then I'm going to also draw out my darts. So make sure you use your front pattern to connect where the dart points are. And then I'm just going to cut out this pattern piece just like that.
Living in a crisis, do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it. Go on and take your aim.
Now I'm going to go back to my front piece and then I'm going to cut out this cup right here. So cut out your cup. So our pattern paper was on fold. You're going to cut it into 2 right here. So I did it on a fold so that I can have an extra piece of my cup basically. So the original cup, I wanted to have like an extra piece. So that's why I did it on a fold. And then you're going to take the piece that is plain, that doesn't have any marker stain on it or anything, and you're going to mark lines that are 1 inch apart. So just like I'm doing right here, and then you're going to label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically depending on how wide it is. Now I'm going to cut out each of them one by one. So from the first one to the end, take a new pattern paper and then place it 1.5 inch apart. So you're placing number 1, leaving 1.5 inch apart, then you place number 2, leave 1.5 inch apart, number 3, just like that till you get to the last piece.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain, I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints, money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague, we all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name, all our insecurities are on display.
Now that I've done that, I'm just going to trace along that shape right there. So the shape at the top and the shape at the bottom, you're going to trace it using your free hand. So just like I'm doing right here, trace it correctly and then cut it out right there.
All I got is working, never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic with this logic, you can't stop it, it's been chronic since I was.
So can you guys see what we have? This is what we have now as our cup piece. So once it's gathered, it's going to become this size. So can you guys see, once it's gathered, it's going to become this particular size right here. Now guys, before I start cutting on my fabric, I'm going to take my front piece and I'm going to extend that dart line. and then create this shape right here. So once that is done, I'm going to label my pieces. So the center front, the side front, I'm going to label it right there, and then I'm going to cut out this dart side. So this is what our front piece is going to be. I'm going to cut out the center front on a fold, and then the side front, 2 pieces of the side front basically. Then we're going to cut out 2 pieces of the large cup as well. So I've cut it out on my fabric. I've cut out this cup piece, 2 pieces, 4 pieces basically, 2 for my main fabric and 2 for the inner fabric that I'm going to be reversing it. So the 2 are like main fabrics basically. So you're cutting 4 pieces. And then for my back, remember I'm using an elastic back, a shared elastic back. So when I was cutting my fabric, I folded it into 2 before putting my pattern. So you would notice there's an excess on the folded side. So from the folded side to where my pattern paper started, it's 5 inches. So once I open up my fabric, I'm going to have 10 inches in total as my excess. That's because I'm using an elastic. So can you guys see, that's how I cut out my back piece, 2 pieces of this wide piece. So 1 for the front fabric and 1 for the inner fabric. So this is what it looks like. And then like I said, my front piece, my center front is cut on a fold, 2 pieces for the inner and outer fabric, and then the side pieces are cut 2 pieces each. Now guys, what you're going to do is you're going to arrange this front piece. So you're going to align the 2 sides, and then you're now going to place it right sides facing each other just like this, and then pin it down and sew it down right there. Then I'm now going to take my back piece and I'm going to sew it right sides facing from the armhole to the other armhole. So you're not sewing the sides, you're just sewing the armhole together down to the other armhole, and then you're sewing the bottom as well. So you're not sewing the sides at all. So from one armhole to the other, and then the bottom. Now guys, this is our cup, the celebrity of the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to place it right sides facing each other. So your inner and outer fabric, place it right sides facing, and then you're going to sew it using 1/2 inch along the top. So once you've sewn that 1/2 inch at the top, you're now going to sew this center front, but you're going to start 1/2 inch after the top line. So 1/2 inch from where you started the top sewing process from, you're going to start from there and sew it down to the end right there. So can you guys see what I've done? I've used the pin to represent it, showing the space that you're going to have once you're done sewing. So sew it from the top to the first 1/2 inch point, then continue from the second 1/2 inch down to the end of the center front. So we're not doing anything on the bottom yet, just do that and then we'll move on to the next stage. So guys, this is it turned to the other side. Now this is what I was talking about. This is what it looks like. There's going to be a hole right there at the top so that you can be able to put in your drawstring basically. So can you guys see it right here? There's a hole right there that I can put in my drawstring from. Now guys, what you're going to do is you're going to snip all the corners because it's a curve. So you're going to snip all the corners before turning it inside out like I did earlier. So once you've done that, iron it flat, and then this is what you're going to have. Now guys, once that is done, you're going to run a stitch 1/2 inch from the top. So can you guys see the stitch right there? There's a 1/2 inch stitch from the top, which will serve as my casing for my drawstring. And then on the bottom, I'm going to take my needle and thread, and I'm going to sew a gather stitch on that bottom. So I'm going to sew it from the center front till I get to that 1/2 inch drawstring casing that I did. So can you guys see what I've done? Now you can use your sewing machine to run your gather stitch. Just use the longest stitch on your sewing machine, but I always feel more comfortable using my needle and thread. So I'm just going to run my stitch right there till I get to this 1/2 inch point. So I'm going to put that aside, and then I'm going to take my front piece, measure what I have along the cup. So from the center front, measure all around that curve right there, and then whatever you get, you're going to gather the bottom of your cups to that measurement. So you're going to be measuring it as you're going. So measure it until you get that measurement, and that's what we're going to have right here. Now guys, I'm going to take my back piece and I'm going to snip the armhole side. So basically anywhere you have curves, you have to snip it before you turn it to the other side. So I'm going to snip it right there and then I'm going to turn it inside out. So can you guys see what it looks like? This is what I have right here. And then I'm going to now measure how the distance basically that I want my elastic to be. So from the top, I'm going to mark half an inch since my elastic is about half an inch wide. It's not up to half an inch, but it's almost there. So half an inch is the best to use. So I'm going to measure half an inch from the top and I'm going to use my pin to represent that line right there. Then from the bottom as well, I'm going to measure half an inch the same way I did for the top. Use a pin to mark it right there, and then whatever I have in between, I'm now going to go down by 1 inch, then half an inch, 1 inch, then half an inch. Do you guys get what I mean? So you have to have a space in between each elastic casing, so you're not putting elastic on all the casings. So you have half an inch already from the top. So after that you can measure 1 inch, then half an inch again, then 1 inch, then half an inch, depending on how shared you want it to look, how elasticated you want it to look, or how gathered basically that you want it to look. Here I have 5 inches excess, so I'm going to go down by 1 inch, then mark from that 1 inch to 1.5 inch. So that will be my casing for that part. Then from that 1.5 inch line, I'm now going to go down again to 2.5. It's 1 inch gap I'm giving. So once I get to 2.5, I'm going to draw a line again at 3 inches. So do you guys get? So just like that, then from that 3 inches, I'm just going to create a half an inch spacing, in between basically. So I don't know if you guys get what I mean. So this is what I'm doing right here. I have created the points right there, and the points where I have half an inch spacing are going to be my elastic casing. So guys, here I have done it. Look at it. Can you guys see the 1 inch I was talking about? 1 inch and half an inch spacing. It's not really clear right here, but it is what I did right here. And then I'm going to take my cup and I'm going to take my bias tape. So for my bias tape, I've used it to create a long string. So how you're going to measure it is you're going to measure all around that edge right there, and then you're going to add about 10 inches to whatever you have. So can you guys see I have added 10 inches to that measurement, and I'm going to cut 2 pieces. And I'm going to use my pin to just put it into the drawstring casing.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague.
So can you guys see it? Once I gather it with my drawstring, it's going to look gathered and beautiful. So now you're going to take your front piece and then you're going to align these cups right sides facing the corresponding fabric, and they're going to pin it from the side, from the armhole side to the center. So can you guys see what I'm doing right here? So guys, the way I'm pinning it, make sure you start from the armhole side so that you can leave about 1 inch. So your seam allowance, basically you are leaving that 1 inch seam allowance before you start pinning. So can you guys see what I've done? From 1 inch down to the center front. So that's how I pinned it, and this is what it looks like in front. And then I'm now going to sew it down right there. So you're going to sew it so that it looks like a piece like this, before we can now join the lining piece of this fabric.
Things in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah. I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it. You know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic. Keep them out your face, no way, you don't want them, yeah. Don't try to drain my energy, the energy.
So guys, I'm going to go back to the back, and then I'm going to take my elastic and I'm going to measure my back. So the elastic that is going to be on the armhole side is going to be wider than what you have on the waist side. So I'm going to measure my bust circumference divided by 2, then minus 1 inch from that measurement, and then cut out your elastic with that measurement. Then as you're going down, the next one you want to measure should be 1 inch or 2 inches less than what you're using for the one on the bust line. Our body is going in a slant to our waistline, so it's not straight. So you can't use the same measurements you're using for the bust side for the other ones because it's not going to be snug fitting on your body. So do you guys get? So you have to make sure the next one is about 1 inch or 2 inches less than what you have on the bust line. So in my case, I'm using 5 elastics. So each of them is going to be reducing by 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, just like that till I get to the last one. Now guys, I'm going to take a pin to put in my elastic, pin it on both sides. Then I'm now going to put in the one on the bottom. So guys, this is what it looks like. If you even want it to be like this, like if you want your elastic to be only at the top and at the bottom, you can do it because it even looks the same as how it will look when you put an elastic into every single casing. Now guys, once you put all your elastics in, you're going to sew it down on both sides. So sew it using a straight stitch on both sides so that you can secure it, and then we'll move to the next stage. Guys, here I've sewn the cups to the body side, and then I'm going to take my other piece. So this is my other piece right here, and I'm going to place it on the cups right sides facing. So can you guys see what I'm doing? I'm going to align it the way we aligned it before for the other one. I'm going to align it on the cups right sides facing. So from one end to the other, just pin it correctly. And then after sewing that side, I'm going to sandwich the cups into this piece right sides facing. So these pieces are going to be right sides facing, and they are going to sew along the two sides right there. So from the armhole to the hem and the armhole to the hem, you're going to sew it right there. So guys, can you see what it looks like? I have sewn it, so I'm just using my scissors to snip through the curves. So whatever curve you have, like I said, you're going to snip through it. So the top that is linking with the corset cups, I have sewn it as well, and this is what it looks like. I'm going to turn it inside out, and this is what you have. So the front is clean, the back is clean, everything is clean. Now for the magic I'm going to create to be able to wear this in a reversible way, I am going to place my back piece to my front piece right sides facing, and I'm going to sew it down right there. So sew it along that edge using your remaining 1/2 inch seam allowance. You know, we've used 1/2 inch to sew the sides of both fabrics individually, and I'm going to also use this opportunity to sew my hem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in just like this and then sew it down right there. So guys, here I have sewn it. Now this is what I am going to do. What I'm basically going to do is I'm going to trim the raw edges of the back piece. So the one that has the elastic, I'm going to trim the raw edges, and I'm now going to use the clean edges. So you know the side of the main front piece is clean, so just fold it in a way that it will cover everything and you have black all around. Now because we have elastic gathers right here, it's not going to be obvious at all. So can you guys see? I have sewn this side and you can't even see anything, like you can't see any error or any bumps or anything, and it looks perfect. So I'm going to sew it for the other side, and my top is basically ready. So can you guys see what it looks like? It looks really nice. I have also created a detachable sleeve. I thought the video was recording. I didn't know it was not even recording anything about the sleeve. I'm probably going to do a separate video of how I did this detachable sleeve because it really pains me that it was not even recording. But you can actually wear this top without the sleeves or with other detachable sleeves. So that's what I did. I used my 2 detachable sleeves as well. I wore it with it and it was fabulous. So this is what it looks like. You can just tie it up and do whatever you want to do with it. I even love it with other sleeves, not even with that particular sleeve, and it looks fabulous. Like anytime I wear it, I feel like a G, like you guys get, you know. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys loved this video, you guys enjoyed it, and if you love it, please like this video. Please like the video, subscribe as well, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I post any video. Comment in the comment section if you have any questions, you know, if you have anything to say, basically comment in the comment section, and share this video as well with your sewing community. And until my next video, do have yourself a wonderful morning, noon or night wherever you are. It's still your favorite content creator and fashion entrepreneur, Lara Savage, signing out.